Good evening. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and thank you for joining me on this edition of Technology Access Television. Well, this may be a little history this evening. I think this may be maybe the first time that I've actually had someone on this show twice. Now, I'm going to have to go over all of 15 years and figure out, has anybody done this before? So if it isn't the first, it's at least rare that I've had someone on twice over the course of these shows, talking about, of course, my favorite subjects: entrepreneurship, innovation, thinking, being creative, making good things happen. And this individual has certainly had a huge impression on me and opened my eyes on some things. I remember when I was dabbling around in social media, and I'd have a clue about what LinkedIn was good for. And I had, of course, like most of us in tech, we see stuff, I got an account, I signed up, whatever. But I didn't have anything in it. Still don't really have that much in it. But what I do have in it, or at least the number of connections I made, is attributable to my guest today. She is someone who has done so much teaching, so much coaching, so much illuminating of those of us in all walks of life, not just business, but in life. She's encouraged people to write best-selling books. She's encouraged people to have a second, an encore career. And now she's encouraging me and a lot of us to think about how we can turn innovation in practical ways to sprinkle some pixie dust on everyone and have them achieve their dreams in a physical, real, and live kind of way. And that's certainly my kind of person. My guest today is Melissa Wilson. Melissa, how are you?
I'm fine, and thanks for that really nice introduction.
Now, before you were Melissa Wilson, you were
Melissa Giovanale, or Giovagnole, and so now it's Melissa G. Wilson.
Okay, Melissa G. Wilson. Well, that's
Yes.
the way so many of us in Chicago and around the world know you as Melissa G. And we're members of your networking group within, and you have several groups on LinkedIn that are pretty huge.
Yes, and I have also had the pleasure of presenting to LinkedIn. To me, it was like going to the land of Oz. But that was fun. Back up, there was a guy named Patrick Crane who was all about kids and teens and helping them. So when he found out that I had that interest too, he asked me if I could come out and present. So I was there when they had about 80 people there, and it was really fun.
That's interesting. I was working for a early company in cloud computing, and I remember going to the CEO, and we had a big pile of cash because we were well funded when we were starting up. And I told him, I said, you ought to buy a couple of companies. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I know we're doing our thing, but we ought to, start acquiring and building up our capacity. He said, all right, wise ass, who do you think we ought to buy? And I said, well, a couple of companies I'm keeping my eye on. He said, well, who are they? And I said, well, one of them is this company called Meetup. He said, Meetup? I've never heard of them. I said, well, there was some guy that was running for president, a governor out of the East Coast, and I said, he used Meetup to organize all over the country. And I said, so this would be perfect for us organizing our marketplace and then attaching our cloud computing service to these meetups all over America. He said, all right, what's next? I said, well, it's this little company called LinkedIn.
Yeah.
He said, well, who are they? I said, well, they're kind of the same thing except for corporate executives that want to network and do something. Oh, that's garbage. Never go anywhere. Get out of here. Go back to selling stuff.
I do love it because even back in 2002 when LinkedIn started, I remember sharing with everyone, this is great for sales. Well, it took over 8 years for people to start saying LinkedIn was for sales. It started out as a recruiting tool. And even my husband, I presented to a group of CEOs. That was at least 5 years ago. And they were saying, well, what do we need that for? But my husband did listen to me, even though he didn't want to. He started a group, and now it has over 4,000 people in it. He's a recruiter. So he was very happy with making that decision.
Well, the thing that you did for me, and you've done for so many people, and this is true of technology in general.
Yes.
The capacity was there.
Yes.
But some of us just couldn't see it. And it wasn't until I sat in a room and you made me come to one of your workshops.
That's right.
Because, okay, so what? I know what it is. I can see what it is, but that wasn't the point.
Right.
I needed to understand not just the literal capacity, but I need to understand the emotional capacity. What are some of the different ways this thing could flow? not
Yes.
just what it's capable of, what can you do with it that maybe it's never done before? And so because of exposing me the ways that I had not previously thought about it, then that changed my whole thinking. Therefore, I related to it completely different. And I went from maybe having, a couple of hundred folks to a couple of thousand folks, literally almost overnight, just because of your workshop. And so that's what's needed in technology so many times, is that technology is sitting around just
Right.
waiting for somebody to come and properly expose it, introduce it, encourage. And so I was so shocked when a company I called up LinkedIn a couple of years ago and I said, why don't you have people like Melissa out here showing people what the power can be? They go to the website. And so Google's just like that today. It's all on the website. It's all on the website. I don't care about being, I want a person to get me pumped up. And so many companies just don't get the
personal touch. And I think in teaching people how to network and teaching people how to use social media, and I like to say too, people used to say, what do you do? And I'd say I teach people how to network, and they didn't really get that then. And then I became a social media coach and trainer, and then people would say, well, I don't understand what that is. Now everyone is a social media expert. But I'm glad I jumped on the bandwagon, the new bandwagon I created, which was publishing, which is now becoming another boom area. But I'm really one of the only people in Chicago that help people publish, write books and publish, and am a social media expert. So I bake all the marketing into books, and then I get to help thought leaders write books. So I've kind of like blended it together, and that's been what I've been doing for the last 3 years.
Wow. But the difference is, it just still seems something different about the way that you do it. Because just like you say, if another person comes to me and tells me they're a life coach now, I'm going to be like,
yet another one, yes. It's like when people used to say, what are you? And they'd say a banker or an accountant.
So now
or
everybody's
an
a life coach. Everybody,
yes.
And then everybody, of course, I'm a social media guru. I'm this, I'm that.
Yes.
But your approach is different. Your approach is never, some of these people, well, okay, you're on the clock, you're off the clock, get out of here, next.
Yes.
And so it's all about revenue to them.
Yes.
But you're really focused on elevating something out of people. You cause people to not even realize that they're sitting on something that they have, and then getting it out and into reality. It just seems like you're coming from another direction.
And I appreciate that. I look at it, I'm what I would call a community thinker. I look at the community, the people that somebody will help, and the endless window of opportunity, I'd say. So if you're helping people and they're helping people because you're helping them, I guess I see beyond just what's right in front of me, and I see possibility, which is actually in networking, which is the science of networks, which Gladwell created the tipping point, and we came out with the Networking, which was my 7th book back in the year 2000. So it's been 14 years, and over the last 10 years, I've done a lot up until about 2010, working in corporations like Motorola, like American Express, helping their leaders learn how to build networks. But what I learned in helping an executive work on a book now is that if you type in power networking or business networking in quotes, and you type in formal business networking programs, you get nothing. And now I realize why it was so hard for me. If you type in formal mentoring programs, you'll have over 100,000 hits. So I realized it was a hard way to go, and I built it up. Now I give it away, as you know. I give Networking away. If people sign up on the Networking site, they get they get the guidebook, they get a tips booklet on how to really build great networks. And my methodology has been licensed by places like Motorola, like Yale University.
Wow.
So I've really got something, but it hasn't even hit its stride yet. So, it's a funny world.
Now, one thing that I'm really thinking about a lot these days is when we have resources like you here in Chicago, and we have people that have really thought through the entire paradigm of how this can make a difference. In fact, you told me something the other day, we were talking on the phone, I was shocked. I forgot about participate.com.
Yeah.
The idea, and that was something, when I heard that term, community manager, I'm like, oh man, that's cool.
Yeah.
Community manager. But it seems like we were there, we understood something, and now we've just let it go.
It is. It's funny how some things come in. Yeah, we ran Arthur Andersen's Knowledge Space, Ace Hardware's Dealer Network. We did Dawson Creek Chats. We did AT&T's WorldNet. We did financial sites. It was amazing, and I was a senior VP writing white papers, and it was fascinating what it was all about. And now, as you know, my goal, because I see things usually, and I'm going, wait a minute, things are going crazy because so many people are getting overwhelmed with tech that now, and we have 5 generations in the workplace, I have people who will come to me and they don't even know the power button where it is on their iPhone. And then I've got, you know, kids I see who are 18 months old that know how to use an iPhone. And so we've got a real strange thing going on, and people are disconnected. So that's why I want to create something now. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
I want to create something in the community that is, if you will, retro and yet forward at the same time.
So talk about this idea then that
Yeah.
you have for this. Well, what do you call it?
I call it the Spark Tank.
The Spark Tank.
Yeah, with the THE, the sparktank.org,
All
and
right.
the goal is to build this not-for-profit, and the big vision is to put it in the heart of retail, which is where I think community is.
Yes.
We have 7 million people coming in as visitors into Chicago every year. We have 22 universities representing 500,000 students. We have the largest aggregation of kids here. We have 90,000 people in the loop every day, and we have hundreds of thousands, I don't know, 200,000 or more. We have people coming into the loop to work every day, and 90,000 living here. I live in the loop. So I look at it and I go, wow, we have this convergence. We have this amazing opportunity to do something cool. And by the way, then I also say, you know, this is where Phil Donahue really got to start. This is where Oprah grew. This is where Rotary One started. This is where Rotary International is. When Gladwell wrote The Tipping Point, I always ask my audiences, who did he write about first before he wrote The Tipping Point? Someone who I looked over and never got to meet, but I met her granddaughter, Lois Weisberg, 6 Degrees of Lois Weisberg. Lois Weisberg, the science of networks.
That's right.
And Gladwell, still his book is a bestseller. You can go to the airport and see it on the shelf.
Right.
But if you read what Publishers Weekly says about it, on Amazon it says it's a bloated version of what he wrote as a science writer for the Washington Post. What that means is, people, we are still at 101, and we should be up to 301. We should be in advanced networks now.
That's so funny. There was a young man who sat in that chair, and in fact, I met Andrew Mason almost by accident. He was so taken by Gladwell's work that the original idea that he tried to launch was called The Tipping Point.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
And that was, and so and really what it was about wasn't about what Groupon became to be. It was
right, it was how it started.
It was started to try to put good ideas in the public, and they would tip when enough people decided that they wanted to be supportive of it. So it was really more of like an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter or something.
I was going to say, it's like what I'm trying to create, but live. There's a really good white paper out there called Face to Face Matters.
All right.
So the National Speakers Association, Meeting Planners International, ICE's International Special Event Society, and a variety of other groups got together because they see what I see. We have gone so high tech. The opportunities on high touch.
Yes, well.
And that's what I've been doing. I've been facilitating connections for years. I was at Motorola where I got to work with 350 people once, and they were it was the women's network, but I had all the top male leaders there too. And I had mics in the audience, and everybody got a copy of Networlding. And, you know, for others to know, the first CMO of Motorola was who I wrote Networlding with, Jocelyn Carter Miller.
All right.
So there I am, and they asked me, we did 2 exercises. One was 6 Degrees of Carolyn Kennedy. And what happened, they're all engineers, and what I know about engineers, and this is a secret too, Tony Robbins, the firewalk works because the more people, the better. The energy really creates a lot of good things. So I knew with that big of an audience, I would get a lot of good things going on, but I just had to trust. So I asked them to gather in groups of 10, 15 minutes, and they had to explore how many people were within 5 people or 6 degrees of Carolyn Kennedy. Now, John F. Kennedy Jr. was alive at that time. So then I had people come up afterwards, and I love the engineers because they're left brain dominant, and so they would absolutely listen to anything I'd say, and they'd follow directions completely. And the bigger the audience, the better. So these people sat down, and I had people walk up, and one would say, well, I was in a dance class with Carolyn. Another one said, or a cousin was in a dance class, so 2 degrees away, one person away. Another one would say, well, somebody I know, a friend of mine, played football with John F. Kennedy Jr. once. Finally, I said to the group, will everyone within 6 degrees or 5 people away from Carolyn Kennedy stand up? And by the way, as a sidebar, the head of training for Motorola, who was out of Australia, didn't want to do this exercise until we played the game, and my question was, how many degrees away are you from President Bush? And when she realized she was really only one person away because her husband knew a Secret Serviceman, then she said, okay. So how many people do you think stood up in a room of 350?
125.
2/3 of the audience. So everyone shifted. At that time, there were 80,000 people at Motorola. The second exercise was and I gave them note cards, again, groups of 10, a different group. I said, write on one side someone you want to meet at Motorola you haven't met yet, because they knew that, 80,000
so
people
this
you
was
didn't
really
know.
demonstrating
I always did that. I always did
the power
interactive.
of networking that people don't perceive.
The science of networks.
Is in the ethers,
right.
And they're walking around with this untapped
Our brains are
potential.
neural networks.
Yes,
right between our 2 ears is a network. Transportation systems are network. The internet is a network. Everything is a network in our lives. Just like the Matrix. And where did the Matrix come from? Who created it? Someone here. Just like Veronica Roth, who just did Divergent, came from here.
Right.
I mean, we are like a network in Chicago, and we're sitting around with all this opportunity and not really taking advantage of it.
Well, and that's where I was going earlier, is that people like Malcolm Gladwell, or you or others, have oftentimes had these ideas validated somewhere else.
Exactly.
At the uptake in Chicago's too conservative,
right.
too political.
And do you know, they say in Chicago, because I gave a talk for the American Bar Association, I also have my law degree, and they say this is one of the most siloed cities. And Motorola used to tell me, when Jocelyn was there, they admitted they were so siloed.
Well, it's another word for what we might say in the city.
Clicks, there's all
segregation.
Kinds of stuff.
Just absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
Cloistered.
Yeah.
And we still aren't changing.
Right.
So then the idea of this democratized ground floor retail, exactly the opposite of what's going on now with this thing up in the sky. You got to have an ID.
Right.
If you don't know somebody to know somebody, you can't get in.
Right.
You're talking about something that is open sourced, crowdsourced, fundamental to creativity and innovation. But you've struggled to get this idea from your head into practice. So what are you going to do about it? How are you going to take Spark Tank from a vision to an engagement? Does it have to be virtual, or can it be real and practical?
It is online now, so people can go and sign up ahead of time if they want to be notified when it starts to really bubble up.
All right.
And I am doing events. So, at any time you can go and look or email me at melissa@networlding.com. So I am very accessible for people who want to do something. I'm out there helping. I call it Leadership 1229, helping 12 to 29-year-olds get better starts. And so I'm here, I'm helping, it's my time to give back. I have to raise $500,000. It may take me individually about 3 years, and that might be the road. It might happen sooner. There might be a wonderful executive I'm working with on a book who might figure it out and say, here. There might be, when we brought Networlding out, I partnered with the Chicagoland Chamber. Networlding was number 10 on Amazon here. That's when Amazon used to report where it had bestsellers. We were number 10 on Amazon an entire year here. I was so happy about that, and we brought 1,000 people through the process. So there are a lot of people who know what I've done, and I'm hoping that there'll be a groundswell and an interest, and I already have interest from other cities and other locations in different parts of the country.
So you put together really a dream team
Yes.
of folks from Northwestern, from different disciplines,
Yes.
who have agreed to break out of their silos to try to help this idea come forward. Are they
Yes.
all in? Are they fully committed?
Time will tell how it happens.
Okay.
But the worst case scenario for me, because I'm very practical and I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and so my thing would be, well, if I go it alone, where I'm doing a lot of the work myself, I'm looking at 3 years. But my plan was really looking at 15 years from now, and I thought, gee, I have about 8 products, and I've got a teen leader guidebook. I've got all these great guidebooks, and for me, any of the proceeds that when people buy those books, it's going in the center.
So then, you being of network consciousness like
Right.
you are, know that any process can be accelerated because
Right.
the
And that's
all,
what networking is.
all of the
building
factors
better
to
business
success
faster.
already
Yes.
exist.
Absolutely.
So it's the fact that they only built a 100-story tower in 1970 wasn't because it was physics, it was breaking the law of physics.
True.
It was just nobody ever realized, well, all you have to do is put together this kind of way, and boom, you can build a Sears Tower anytime you want to. And of course, now they're popping up all over, in Qatar and all kinds of continents. Everybody
Right.
can build. So just like these companies go from, Kickstarter to
Yeah.
being acquired by Facebook for $2 billion in 18 months,
Yes.
there's all types of energy and capacity and money available for seemingly the most arcane of ideas, something as germane and elemental to revitalizing cities and
Yeah, and I did a revitalization event. There were 350 people there at the Adler Planetarium back in 2002, which you can still see on YouTube. So it's like, yeah, that's 12 years later. So hopefully it won't be 12 years from now.
Okay, so then let's look at our conversation from here to the end of this show as an enlistment.
Yeah.
We want to send out an invite.
Yeah,
to
I'm inviting. Please
everybody
please
seeing
attend.
This
is for you. This is for the community.
Because this can be a point of engagement. A friend of mine made a comment the other night about this company that came out with these virtual reality goggles that were only able to be talked about because they had a successful Kickstarter campaign.
Right.
Yet when they sold the company to Facebook, they kept all the money and told the people who had made it possible for them to have this campaign, oh, we'll send you a pair of goggles, as opposed to sending them a share of the proceeds of selling the company for $2 billion. So
yeah, that doesn't get it for me.
So then that's my point exactly.
Yeah.
Let's invite
Yes.
the viewers of this show to get engaged on this journey
Yes.
of making practical networking profitable
Yes.
for themselves.
Yes.
How to, if you're 2 degrees away from your money,
Right.
so
you're one person away,
One-
which 6 degrees has shrunk to 2.
Okay.
Where the introduction is a new referral.
So then the reason people would enlist in this activity, so what can they do right now today to start this process of moving their most passionate, innovative, large-scale, world-changing idea forward
Yeah.
through Spark Tank? How can they start the process right now with what you have in existence?
Because I help people all the time.
All right, so let's still look
I would say
practical.
practical.
Step one, what should they do?
Step one, I would say email me with their idea.
Okay, so email, but can they go to the website?
And they can go to the sparktank.org
All right.
with a THE, thesparktank.org. They can sign up as a visitor, that they want to be a
Okay.
potential visitor in the center. If you want to go further, there's a contact form on there where they can say, hey, yeah, I actually have an interest, and I'm more than happy to give my thoughts on it. Can I give them all that's possible now? Probably not.
But what I'd like to see happen is Spark Tank tip.
Me too.
So
Yeah,
so
me
then
too.
if you need $500,000
Yes.
and 10,000 subscribers or 5 people with good ideas that are missing 1 or 2 things that will take them into their $1 billion trajectory. If all of those things become self-evident on the site,
Yes.
then can you cultivate that into something that'll tip?
Yes.
And then we can have a ribbon cutting of the Spark Tank on
Yes,
Michigan
and
Avenue.
I think that's a very good idea, because I met someone today who wants to create an urban space, and I love the term she had shared with me. And so I said, great. So I actually came up, because I always put it into a book, because I'm able to get things off the ground with a book. So I said, the book's going to be called There's a Space for Us instead of a place for us.
All right.
So I'm working it with her now, and I said, I will help you. I
So
will help you realize
how
that.
do people get in touch with
I
Melissa
think
Wilson?
to the best way to go through is to go to thesparktank.org.
Okay.
It's to sign up as to what fits for you, because there are 3 areas on the bottom you can sign up for. If you want to be a sponsor, if you want to be a future visitor, and then take a look. If you want to get in touch with me, go to the contact page.
All right.
The other way is melissa@networlding.com. But I'm very open to ideas and helping where I possibly can. And it's really about the greater good.
Can this idea tip? Do you see it tipping?
Oh,
Can
absolutely.
it become a real physical experience, just like the Apple stores on Michigan Avenue? Will we?
Apple Store meets Cheers is what this is. Yes, I think one day this will happen, and I'm not sure when, and I'm just open. Right now, to your point, doing meetups, doing events, that's where we'll go.
Well, the law of demonstration is in the idea and mind of the demonstrator. And if you are watching this show today and you've kept up with this crazy conversation we've had for the last 28 minutes, then you are part of what can make this become self-evident. Going from ideation to demonstration is within a blink of an eye. And hopefully somebody out there watching today is inspired, as I have been, by Melissa Wilson and her work, her lifelong work, her passion, her changing lives through books, through applications, through meetups, through all kinds of things. And now it's your turn to say, I want to take an idea from the mind of the innovator and be part of bringing it into reality. So many things that are on the landscape of our community we've had little to do with, but we're of the consciousness where we can have something to do with this. So this is a call to action. If you believe in yourself, if you believe in the power of innovation, if you believe in the power of networks, let's prove it. Melissa, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a delightful conversation. I've enjoyed it. I'm going to tip with it right here and right now. This is a real-time chance to make a difference in my life, in my world, in my affairs. My name is Bruce Montgomery. Thank you for being a part of this edition of Technology Access Television.
Thank you.